UCF has another commit, this time on offense.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend James Duncan, UCF sports commentator and co-show host here at Locked On UCF. We're talking UCF football on today's show, James. We are going to talk recruiting. How high can UCF climb? Are they building momentum right now as we speak? And is that momentum due to one Tanner Emman, maybe I said that right, committing to the UCF Knights? Today's show is brought to you by our title sponsor, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Head on over to FanDuel.com, download the app to get started today. Let's jump right in. Tanner Emman from Alabaster, Alabama. Scott Frost going into the state of Alabama to get recruits now. I love it. Come on, man. He commits at tight end. Now, if you don't know anything about Alabama high school football, fear not. I know a ton about Alabama high school football. He hails from Thompson High School. They are very, very good at football at Thompson. I can tell you that. Many state championships, some recently, and they are consistently putting D1 athletes into D1 football. Talk to me, man, about this recruit. I've been loving what they've been doing in recruiting. And you and I had a conversation about this. It's not, look, man, stars will catch up as UCF, I think, shows proof of concept on the field, James. But what you need to do is you need to fill needs, right? You need to build depth. UCF seems to be doing it right. And now I'm going to let you get into the specifics on Tanner, but I like him a lot.
No, I like him too. But before we dive in to Tanner Emman, I want to give a special shout out to UCF Softball beating the Noles today in regionals for the first time in UCF postseason history. They were 0-7 against the Noles. They beat them today, getting a dub, going to super regionals. What a phenomenal game. I have a special place in my heart for this, for the softball program here. Is one of my favorite sports to watch. I got to watch the whole Jada Cody, Sarah Willis era. So what a great team. I'm so happy that you could see Coach Ball Malone, she was crying a little bit going to super regionals for the second time in program history, Mike, going to super regionals. So it's a massive thing for this team. And also shout out to UCF baseball, number 4 in the Big 12. Big 12 tournament starting soon. And you mentioned before the episode, they might be going out, taking a little trip over to Auburn.
Yeah, there are some projecting that UCF may end up in Auburn's regional. Auburn has hosted a number of regionals over the years. So some exciting times potentially on the docket here for UCF outside of football, but hopefully exciting times for football in recruiting. So as I mentioned, again, talk to me about Tanner Emman, the tight end, man. It's a big deal that they're getting a recruit out of Alabama. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is a big deal. And this kid is talented, and he comes from a high school where I'm telling you they produce star athletes. Thompson High School, man, do your homework on them. It's a solid program. They've got one of the best all-time coaches in Alabama sports history, coaching Thompson. Tanner, talk to me about Tanner. What do you like about him?
I love this for UCF. Tanner, we've got him listed here at 6'5", 230. I believe that's from 247. I've got him on On3 and Rivals at 6'6", 240. Coming out of high school as a tight end, 6'6", 240, I'll take it. I don't think anyone is questioning the measurables there. And I think if you look at Coach Coop, you'll understand why. That guy is huge. This guy's even bigger. I'm so excited for the tight end room. I can't really remember the last time that, maybe I know we put Alec Holler on our list, and I think he, had some great moments. I think some people disagreed with me about that. But, you want to talk about the past couple of major UCF tight ends. Dylan Wade, setting program records last year. Randy Pittman the year before, who had tons and tons of talent, unfortunately goes to FSU. And then we've got in this room right now, we've still got Dylan, but we've also got Caden Peening, who is going to be a star for UCF next year. I think he's going to get some valuable reps this year as tight end too. I think you're setting yourself up great with some tight end depth here. Coach Coop doing an absolutely phenomenal job going out and getting this guy. If you look at his tape, sometimes when you look at high school tape, you just, without even seeing like what is actually happening, like catches or routes or whatever, and you just look at the way that the tape is put together. The second clip in this guy's tape, and the third clip, and I think the fourth clip even, of this guy's junior season is him laying out pancake blocks. All right. That's what you want to see. You want to see a guy that's proud of his blocking ability. You want to see a guy that's getting out and making space for his runners. I love it. He's able to catch the ball. He's got a big frame, big body. I just think this is a phenomenal pickup for UCF. He's our first out-of-state commit in this class. And I think it's just a great get for this tight end room, Mike.
I think it's a great get as well, too. A phenomenal job by Coach Cooper. When we went to go cover UCF's final practice, there was a dude running around on the field looking like Florida G.I. Joe. And I thought he was a player. This is actually Coach Cooper. Coach Cooper. I was like, yo, who let Shawn Michaels in here? And no, it was Coach Coop in good shape. Hopefully he's keeping his guys in good shape. So if he sees something in this kid that he likes, then I think it's a good sign. I cannot stress enough, going into the state of Alabama, in particular a school like Thompson High School, to pull an athlete at that position, very, very, very good job by this staff to go and get that commit. So I'm loving this for UCF. But are they starting to, you and I had a conversation on a previous episode where we talked about, are you worried about where UCF is at in recruiting right now? Does this commitment signal that they are starting to build some momentum finally? We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Guys, the NBA playoffs are here and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets for just getting started. We like using FanDuel here at Locked On UCF, especially during the playoffs, because everything you need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, and it makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every single game you're watching. It's really easy to navigate the app, and it makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. FanDuel, play your game. Locked On UCF fans, we have a deal for you. It's the Everydayer Club. Head on over to lockedonucf.supercast.com to get signed up today. Everydayers will get an ad-free feed of the show, as well as access to a private Discord where you can chop it up with other UCF fans just like yourself. And it's only $5 a month. All that we ask that you do here is listen. But if you want to go a step further in supporting the work that we're doing here at Locked On UCF, sign up as an Everydayer. Again, that's lockedonucf.supercast.com to get started. As always, we appreciate your support. Let's jump back in here. Are they building momentum in recruiting here with this pickup? UCF had some work to do, James. And I, for one, was a little nervous because right now you're on kind of like an accelerated timetable in recruiting. You don't have all season to convince kids to come in for the 2027 class anymore. A lot of them are committing in that early window in December because they want to potentially get into bowl practice if they can and get a jump on all their teammates that might be, not graduating until May and can't get in until the summer. But we're seeing more and more that second, what used to be National Signing Day, that second Wednesday in February, has become pretty meaningless. Your whole class is committed before December, just about now. And so if you're UCF, you've got to build some momentum, and you had to start doing it. Hopefully, Tanner Emman's commitment is a signal of that. Right now, UCF has 4 kids in this class: Conell Jackson, Tanner, Noah Robinson, Jamal Robinson Jr., all UCF Knights, all 3 stars. Talk to me, man. Does this feel like they're building some momentum? And who is the crown jewel of this class so far?
Oh God, crown jewel of the class. That's tough. I mean, I think a lot of people would say at this point probably Conell Jackson. He's kind of like, he's a running back, he's a wide receiver. Like he can just do everything, which I really like. I would say he's probably your jewel of the class right now. But I don't think he's going to end up being like the crown jewel of the class. I think he's definitely going to see minutes here at UCF. I think he's got a great opportunity to come into a running back room that is going to have leaders in it already. Tavion Swint being one of them. Arthur Lewis, and some of the other guys, Kaj Baker from this freshman class of this past year, have shown out in spring. I think they're going to be leaders of this future class. But yeah, no, I think that UCF is building momentum. I think it would be wrong to say otherwise. Last year, UCF was 14th in the Big 12, which is not a flex. It's not a flex at all. That is where they finished. But if you go and you look at last year's class of 2026, that was Scott Frost's like first. You can say that 2027 is his first real, but like 2025 was the year that he had to like kind of scramble things together. 2026 was the year where he was able to at least have a full year of getting guys together.
Let's talk about this, right? Because this is his second full season, right? Last year was his first season, but Gus got let go after the 2024 season, right? So the 2025 recruiting class, technically, right? I just want to
I mean, there were remnants of Gus guys like Tavion Swint, Tony Williams, Carl Jenkins, Waden Charles, Caden Peening. Those were all guys that were originally, they were committed mostly to Gus, and there was only one blue chip in that class. But my point is, I'm not holding that class against him. Like when you get hired in the middle of November or December, like what can you do? Again, I'm going back to what I just said about that early signing day where kids they've already made up their mind where they're going. So, it wasn't until 2026 that we really kind of get an idea. They're starting to build some momentum in recruiting. And in 2027, we should see a little more improvement. And in 2028, that's the class I'm really holding his feet to the fire on. Now, I think they're holding their own feet to the fire here in 2027, and they're going to try to recruit their butts off. But I want to go back here, James, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but like this, again, there's a trend here. A lot of kids in or around about the 1,000th ranked nationally. And until you get some sort of proof of concept on the field, last year wasn't the year for it. They did it on defense, but on offense, you couldn't find a quarterback. So there were so many things about this scheme that just didn't work because they didn't have a trigger man. Alonza Barnett hopefully solves that problem for you. So that should have a marked effect on 2028 recruiting. And if there are some diamonds in the rough that they can we have a Merry Flipsmas here in season where they're flipping kids before December, it will be because of the success I think that they have on the field here in 2026. Absolutely. I think this, I think the momentum is building, and I think you're going to get there. I want to bring up a point about Gus's recruiting in our next segment, but like, if you want to look at momentum, your national ranked in 2025 was 69. This is all according to On3 and Rival. So our numbers on 247 the numbers that we're using from 247 are going to be a little different, but national rank 69 in 2025, 2026, 64. Right now you're at 67, but you know that you still have time. So you're you're gradually getting better. You're at 13th in the Big 12 right now, as opposed to last year, which is 14th. You have time. And I think that 2027, I know you said 2028, you're really going to be holding his feet to the fire. I think I'm going to be doing it in 2027.
Okay.
This is you've had now a full season. You scrambled together some Gus guys. You scrambled together your first full season and your full season of recruiting. You went out and you got 2 blue chip guys. You went out and you got Rocco Marriott. You went out and you got Alassane Idrisu. You went out and you got Tyron Horns, who made a massive jump and was now your crown jewel. He's 92.79. Like, that guy's going to play this year as a freshman. He's going to see snaps. Don't like you can book that. Like, you can come back to this episode. Oh, James said Tyron Horns not going to. Yeah, he's going to play. He's going to play. I watched him in practice. He's phenomenal. This wide receiver room is deep, and it goes as deep as the true freshman Tyron Horns. Yeah. You are building momentum. You are finding guys that are going to go out there and be effective in their first, second, third year, obviously. I think that you are going to build momentum, and I think you are actively building momentum. I think what Scott Frost is doing here is great. I think he's going to keep finding guys. And to go on our next segment, I think top 25.
Yeah, how high can they climb? How high can they climb? Look, man, I'm. Are they filling needs? I think is the first question that you have to answer. And there's some spots that are a little bit more bare than others, but what they need to do is you no matter what, I think you have to have a trigger man. You've got to have the right quarterback. Having the right quarterback can cover a multitude of sins on offense. Having the wrong quarterback can expose every weakness you got. And they went out and they got a guy who they feel like does, the first thing. Will Alonza Barnett cover you where you're weak, right? And bolster you even more where you're strong. That is today's college football. One might say that's always been true of college football, but boy, we saw last year to the extreme how exposed UCF looked on offense because you could not find even average quarterback play at times. The ability, as I say, to score a normal amount of American football points. Killing UCF, man, last year, and hopefully this year they've got that solved. Look, let's jump into our last segment because I want to talk about how high you and I feel like they can climb in recruiting based on what we're seeing now. We'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On UCF. Is top 25 attainable? A top 25 class, I think, would be a great feat. And if you fill it up with 3 stars, you can get there, but you need numbers. Now, I asked this question, I think it was to Kyle Nash. May have asked Andrew as well, too. And in case I have not asked you, I will ask you now. With the portal, it feels like those years where P4 schools will go and bring in like 30 high school kids in a class are over. We're starting to see smaller and smaller high school halls from a lot of schools here. 25 kids feels like a lot. So, for UCF to break the top 25 in recruiting, I think it's going to be about numbers. And if you fill it up with 20 to 23 3 stars, you can certainly get there, and a few 4 stars here and there. Yeah, you can certainly get there. I think you could be top 25. I have questions about whether they could go get 20 kids from high school of that rating and bring them in. Now, you got to have the room on your roster, obviously. So, depending on where you're at in your cycle of scholarships flowing in and out of the program, you see bigger or smaller classes. But the portal, man, like it changes the math. And maybe it was on 3. If it wasn't, forgive me. I thought they were the first to really start re-rating recruiting classes based on who you brought in the portal and where they would have ranked if they had been high school recruits. I love that they're factoring that in now when we have these conversations about how well did you do in the offseason bringing in talent, because those portal kids are just as important now as the kids that you bring in from high school, if not more important, because a lot of them are more ready to play than a lot of the kids that you bring in from the high school level. How high is this that is the ceiling for this class, and what path do you see UCF taking to get to whatever ceiling you feel like they have?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Scott goes really hard on the trail, I think he can get into the 40s. I think he has the ability to do that. The last time that UCF was under, I mean, 2024 was Gus's last year. He had the third highest recruiting class in the Big 12, Mike. And he was nationally ranked 38th. That was when he brought in 2 4-stars with Kylan Fox and Jalen Hayward. And then he brought in 19 other guys besides those 2. And that was the last time that UCF had a 20 player plus commit cycle. Most of the time it's been around that 16, 17, 18 area. 2026 was 16, 2025 was 14. This year so far, only got 4. So like you said, you're going to need some numbers here. I think if you realistically, look at what the past years have given us, I think you're probably going to get 10 or 11 more guys. The portal is such a great thing for coaches because you're taking guys after their first full, sometimes if you get a redshirt freshman or you get a redshirt sophomore, these guys have already been building and they've already been getting stronger. They've already been more conditioned. They're used to the college life of football. And a lot of times for some of the high school guys, not every single one, but that there's a big adjustment period. And those guys want to play, and they might stay at your school for a year and go, I'm going to take my year. I'm going to grind it out. And then after that year, they don't see snaps. They start to itch. They start to get antsy, and they jump ship. And that's not saying that that's every single player. And I'm also not saying that's not the best route for players sometimes, but that's just how it is. That's how the game is now. College football has changed. I don't think top 25 is in reach for this year. I think if you have a phenomenal year of football, you could be looking at a 2029, 2028 top 35 class. You could get top 25 if you really, really snipe it out. But, I don't view Scott Frost as one of those, like, we're looking at 5-star guy. Like Gus was like that, to where he had the pull just off name, to where he could get any guy that he wanted at least to visit.
To listen, yeah.
Yeah. And when you don't necessarily, and I'm not saying like Scott Frost isn't a great recruiter, but he doesn't have the name value that someone like Gus Malzahn has. Like, that's just how it is. I mean, Gus Malzahn was one of the most famous college coaches in the country. I mean, he had that ability to pull guys in.
The dude who produced the Cam Newton, technically, right? Like, and Nick Marshall and Jared Stidham. I mean, you're right. He did have look, Cam came down to UCF to support his coach down there. Now remember, when Cam won the Heisman, Gus was his offensive coordinator, but he did have a certain name cachet. I think you're right, where in recruiting, he could point to things that he had done that these recruits would remember and say, oh yeah, like, I want to go play in that guy's system. Now, it didn't work out the way I think maybe that he planned here. And ultimately he just recently hung it up. But if you're Scott Frost, you have to start to build that sort of legacy on the field where you can point to things that you've done recently. And I think it's going to start with Alonza Barnett. You brought him here now, and at the very least, he has to leave UCF a better quarterback than he was at JMU.
I don't even know if he needs to do that. I think you get 8 wins on the season just because of this roster. And if you start looking at yeah, I mean, if you start looking at his development with McKenzie and those types of things, and you start looking at the connection with Derry and Charles and like, if you really piece it out, you don't have a lot of holes in this lineup. If you get a big season, you could get a Mary Flipsmith, and I think that's what you need.
At the very least, you got to start beating some of the guys that you're competing against for these very recruits in the Big 12. This schedule, man, I'm telling you, the schedule is very favorable. I feel like this is a favorable schedule. And the only school on this schedule that I feel like is heads and tails better, not just barely better, heads and tails better than UCF as a program is BYU.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Who's killing it? Who's killing it other than BYU on the schedule?
You know, I'm really interested, and I know we'll probably at some point do like a full dive in on this schedule, but like Oklahoma State is literally just North Texas. Their entire lineup got planted over, and I'm so excited to see how that works out for them. Like, I think it's so boomer bust, and I genuinely do think it could work. Like, you know what, like Indiana did with JMU. It's like you can do that. Like, that works. If you keep a lot of your major guys in that system with your head coach and your quarterback and your running back and your wide receivers, like, it could work. I'm actually really excited. I'm not like a Cowboys fan per se, but their fan base has always been very nice to us. I think we've always had like this nice little, like, we both don't like certain schools in the conference, so we bond over that, and we bond over the fact that we absolutely destroyed them in the space game, and I think we beat them every time that we played them since we've been in the conference.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm rooting for them this year, other than when they play us.
I think that Oklahoma State's going to be a very interesting experiment this year. All right. Yeah. I mean, now Drew Mestemaker is a great quarterback. Had he come to UCF, I would have been very, very happy. I mean, I think he's accurate enough. I would have been very, very happy with Mestemaker. I like the guy that we got a lot, and I like him better than Mestemaker.
And he's got so much, Mestemaker's got so much buzz around him. Like,
I know,
he's going in with some high expectations.
You know what's crazy is when Alex Golish went to Auburn from USF. Recently, USF fans have been all over Twitter saying, "Oh, you think you could just take a bunch of USF guys and then go win in the SEC?" And he didn't really do that. Like, he took a couple key guys, but like it was only like 11 players that followed him. Oklahoma State actually did what USF fans are accusing Alex Golish of doing in terms of roster replacement, and it's not close. So I have questions about whether that can truly work. Now, for Auburn, I think Byron Brown is a great athlete. Will he be a good quarterback in the SEC? We'll see. They bet a lot on that. But for Oklahoma State, they made the same kind of bet. Right, you got these coaches who are going from, and UCF fans, they know what this jump is like. But there's another level of talent, man, that you need to compete at the Power 4 level consistently. So while you may find good stopgap American guys, eventually the recruiting, James, has to catch up. It does. So while he may not be a top 20, it might not be a top 25 class this year. You've got, what I want to see is steps in that direction, because ultimately the talent wins, and you're not going to outdevelop Texas Tech and BYU when they're going out and they're buying classes that give them a talent buffer over bad coaching. You don't have to necessarily bring your A game some games, because your athletes are just that. They go out and they win their matchups, and they're just that much better than you, athlete for athlete. Sure, you could out scheme here and there, but eventually, like, if it results in enough wins, you should be able to catch up on both ends of the spectrum. And then when you dominate, it's because you're doing both things really well. You're pulling in high level talent, and you're still developing those kids, because 4 or 5 stars need development too. No, interesting conversation there. I think you guys very interesting thoughts on this subject here. I'm glad that you got a chance to get that out today, buddy. We're going to go on and get out of here. James, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show, guys. Do us a favor, hit the comments after the video. Let us know what you think about tight end Tanner and the job that Coach Coop is doing in recruiting offensive talent to UCF. And then let us know what you think about the momentum that UCF has right now. Will it result in a top 25 class? We want to hear from you guys. Thank you for making us your first listen of every day and for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with more Locked On UCF.